Let's bring on Union play-by-play broadcaster. Among the things that he does and calls is Jeff puts on his Philadelphia
My
Union
union
hat.
hat, just
So
for
he's
JP.
ready. JP Dellacamera, thank you so much for a few minutes. How you doing today?
Jason and Jeff, how are you guys?
We're good. We got to see. I wonder how special it is for you, this team for so long, to see them hold up this supporter shield the other day. What was that like for you to watch? I know you're not supposed to be partial and everything, but this
Right.
has been a labor of love for you for a long time with this organization too. What was that like?
Right. Well, you can be more partial when you're watching it as a fan. When you're sitting at home, as I was watching it on ESPN. It was a moment of joy for me. Not really for me, for the players, for Jim Curtin, for the coaching staff, for the ownership group, for all of the people that work there behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. It was a moment for all of them, and so I felt great uh, supporting them. I knew what it meant to all of them. I would think especially somebody like Jim Carton, who has been with this team for what now 7 years or so, and he's fought his way through. There were times when the talent wasn't there, like it is now. There were times when the money wasn't spent, like it is now, and he persevered. And full credit to him. And that team plays so hard for him.
We talked to Coach Curtin last week about when he knew that this team could accomplish what it is now accomplished. For somebody who sees as much soccer as you see and calls as much soccer as you call in the world, and then also with the Union, when did you know, if you knew, that this was a team that could accomplish this goal?
I think last year is when I really knew that things were definitely on the right path. Before I think you can become great. I don't think you become great overnight. I think you become good first and then consistently good and then you become great, right? So now, we've watched this team. This is 5 times they've been in the playoffs, 3 straight, including this year, 4 years out of the last 5. So if you make the playoffs in 4 of your last, I got to think that you're being close to consistently good. And when I saw what they did last year, they finished in third. There were times where they were in second place last year, in first place. I saw they kept the core pretty much together. Was the biggest loss, but they kept the core group together. And then they added pieces that we didn't know how good they were going to be honest. But once you saw how good Glesnes was or was going to be, once you saw how good Jose Martinez was going to be, once you saw the improvement of a Mark McKenzie and a Brendan Aronson, you knew this was a real winning team. And if things went right, that they definitely had a shot at first place, and then of course the Supporters Shield. But I think that you became a believer earlier this season, more of a believer during the tournament in Orlando, and then even more of a believer when they got off to a good start when the league started to announce the rest of the schedule kind of piece by piece.
We've talked to many of the Union personnel about the idea of the process. The Sixers kind of were the team that formed this idea of a process. But when you look at the Union and the way that they have built this team, from youth to bringing in people from the outside to the coaching staff to the front office, what's it been like to watch this process play out as perfectly as it has?
I think it's been rewarding. It's rewarding for me to see it work because it's not the way others do it, right? And I'm not critical of other teams the way they've done it. It'd be great to be Atlanta United, right, and have that early success, and they spent a fortune. But then look at what happened to them this year. They were not built to sustain that. I look at teams like the Seattle Sounders. To me, are a team to like because what is it, 12 straight years they've made the playoffs. And they do spend money on designated players. They do make trades. They spend more money probably than a lot of teams do, but they're not irresponsible with it, and they're consistently good, right? So I think instead of an expansion team coming into the league and saying, I want to be like Atlanta United, I'd rather say I want to be like the Seattle Sounders because they had a good team at the start, and they've been consistently good. To me, that's the measure. I would have said evidence measuring stick, but realistically, Atlanta's first couple of years were lights out with the money that they were spending and the crowds that they were drawing. Not everybody could go for that model, and that model broke down this year. So I think with Philadelphia, uh, they were always interested in the academy. They were one of the teams that spent the most money. They and FC Dallas have spent the most money. Not only spent the most money in the, but also used those players, which shows that they believed in the academy. So it's nice to see that that has worked, but it has taken time, right? Because you couldn't start like 5 players off of their academy team in 1 year and have half of your team or more be academy players. You're not going to succeed in MLS. It's going to be a rough year. But you can certainly have a few players or a few homegrown players, and that's what the team did this year. There were times where they had maybe 4 homegrown players in their starting 11. I mean, that's remarkable when you think about it. And those kids all did well. So I think the model is working. I think the fact that they could sell Brendan Aronson for the $6 million, which will end up being closer to 9 or 10 million, shows that it really is working. And now it's up to the team to reinvest that money so that they can keep this model going. And I think under the ownership group that they have, which was expanded when they brought in Kevin Durant, and under the direction of Ernst Tanner, who I think has done a marvelous job, Chris Albright helping him out there, I think that they're on the right path to continued success.
I feel like with the success of the team, you're going to get some newer fans. Everybody loves a winner. For fans who aren't as familiar with soccer and only see the fact that the Union are losing a rising star with Brendan Aronson to a European club, can you talk about why it's important that the Union's able to develop talent that they can then loan or sell to other teams, and how that will help the team grow in the long run?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's the business model throughout the world, right? That's what all clubs do, whether it's Real Madrid or Barcelona or Manchester United or Paris Saint-Germain. They buy and sell players. That's what they do. In our country, in other sports, we make trades, right? But in other countries, it's different. It's buy and sell, and the best way to make money on this is to really develop your own players, right? Because if Brendan through the academy, however they figure out their costs, they're making maybe $9 or $10 million on one player. If you sold a veteran player, let's say on the Philadelphia Union, pick a player. You're not going to get $9 or $10 million for that player. There's no way that's going to happen, right? Because of a player's age, and that there's other players that you could buy at that level. Right now, especially I would say with COVID, I think teams have to be more practical with the money overseas. So, for instance, Pavone from the LA Galaxy, the team that owns him in South America, wanted $20 million. Well, the Galaxy, in the best of situations, would not want to pay $20 million, right? And in the best of situations, the club that owns Pavone wouldn't lower the price. But I think you'll see that price lowered, and I'm hoping that he stays with the LA Galaxy, because I think that the money is different now. So if you're the team in Austria, the Red Bull Salzburg team, if you could buy Brendan Aronson for $6 million, and we say $6 million again, it's going to be up to 9 or 10, but it's less risky for them to take a young player that's 19 or 20 years of age and spend $6 million on him than it is for them to spend $15 million on somebody more proven. I think that's just the economic model that we see today. And Salzburg is one of those teams that buys and sells players too. So I don't know how long Brendan will play there. My guess is that if he's successful, and we hope and believe he will be, that he'll be there for 1 year, maybe 2, and they'll make more money selling him, and then they'll look for the next guy. Maybe it'll be Brendan's brother.
So that leads to the question of, once you lose Brendan through this process, we know his younger brother is now in there, but
Yep,
the
Paxton,
rest
yep.
of the program, the rest of the academy, what is it like for a team to have to then find somebody to fill the spot that Brendan has grown into? For people that don't watch soccer day to day and don't
Yeah.
know this whole system, They just get frustrated because now they're losing somebody that they just bought a jersey of.
Okay. That's a good point. Forgot about the jerseys. I think that, when you look at it logically, right? The union must feel one of two things. They know that if they lose Brendan Aronson, they lose a talented starter. So they must feel that either they do have a young player, maybe it's his brother Paxton, who could take Brendan's place, but they also know that if they don't have
And his
another
jersey.
player, yeah, that's true.
Change the
But
number.
yeah, but if they don't have another player, let's say they now made between $6 and $9 million. They now have several months to go find another player while that next academy player develops, right? I mean, Brendan was good last year, but he's been more than good this year, right? We can see the jump in his game, from one year to another, right? Could Brendan have played more 2 years ago? Probably not. I mean, they're watching these guys closely. So I think Paxton probably plays a different position. He's a different type player than Brendan. So I'm not saying he's the guy. I have no idea who the guy is that will replace Brendan Aronson. But they're going to probably need a guy to replace Mark McKenzie too, because I think he'll be the next guy that's sold because he's that good and he's had that good of a year, and that he's no secret anymore. Teams in Europe know who he is. So I think, for the Union fans that maybe, or soccer fans or sports fans that don't understand, losing one player here and there, they might have to get used to it, because the more successful these young homegrown players are, the more likely it is that they'll play in Philadelphia for 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3, and then go overseas. The team makes money with that sale, and it goes from there. And think about it this way too, guys. If you're a young academy player and you're wondering, am I going to chance to play with the Philadelphia Union? First of all, the answer is yes, because you see how many homegrown players they've used. And then second, if you're thinking, could the Union be a pathway to something even bigger? You can check that box too, because anybody that's playing in that Union Academy that saw Brendan Aronson start a lot of games last year, become an everyday starter this year, and get a contract to play overseas starting in January, that's a win-win for anybody that's in the academy.
So we're on the international break now. Before we come back, the Union will have their first home playoff game November 24th. Looks like they'll be without Jamiro Montero and Olivier Mbazio because they're international call-ups right now. Question about whether Andre Blake will be back. Coach said if everything goes smoothly, he thinks he'll be ready. We expect to see that first home playoff game out of this team.
What do I expect to see? Well, I hope I don't see rust, because you got to remember this, right? They're going to play, the lower seed of the I don't have the matchups in front of me, but they're going to play.
If Nashville wins, they would play the New England Montreal winner. If Miami wins, then the Union would play Miami.
Right. So either way, right, it's going to be a lesser team, right? But that team will have played one more game, right, than Philly to qualify, right, to get to the round that they need to go to. So you've got that sort of going against you. I think that, you might see some rust from the two teams. I don't know what the COVID situation is going to be like, whether the guys you mentioned will be able to get through quarantine and be able to play. I hate to say this, guys, but, I mean, I just saw on the internet that Mo Salah tested positive. Like, you've got guys going overseas now that checked out with a negative result when they were here. They go overseas, they play for the national team, and they come back with a positive test. So we don't know what COVID's going to do. Hopefully it doesn't do anything to the MLS Cup playoffs. But, speaking of that, too, I just saw today where Seattle had a player that tested positive. So, it's the COVID reality. But I think that I was asked this yesterday. There are a lot of good teams in MLS. A lot of teams can win MLS Cup. If things go Philadelphia's way, if Philadelphia gets Andre Blake back, and I think they will, but if they do get the Andre Blake of 2020 back, that gives them a leg up on everyone else, because I think he's clearly been the best goalkeeper in the league. If they get Blake back and they play their game, they'll have home field advantage no matter what. all the way through. They have as good a shot as anyone to win MLS Cup, and a lot of the experts, that lay the odds on this are picking Philadelphia to win. That's pressure, right? And Jim Curtin said they're not used to that role right now, but they are among the favorites. I mean, anybody that says they're not among the favorites now would be spinning the truth the opposite way, right? Because they have to be considered one of the favorites after winning the Supporters' Shield. And you guys were at the stadium the other day. I'm watching it on TV, but I can hear those 3,000 fans. There is a home field advantage. There's a home field advantage. And, hopefully the politicians will let more people in if it's safe. I must say that, if it's safe, because I don't want it to happen if it's not safe. But those 3,000 people sounded a lot louder. They came through on my television set. So the Philly fans that were there should be proud of what they've done. The only thing bad about this year is because of COVID, not as many people could see the games in person. I'm told that the TV ratings were the highest that they've ever been, and I'm sure it's because, especially on those home games, right? Instead of fans being in the stands, they're watching the games on TV. So I think that, we've retained some fans that way. I hope we've made more fans that way. And when COVID goes away, as we expect it to sometime in 2021, you'll see the 19,000 plus at Subaru Park game in and game out, because they've got something very good to watch.
I think you're definitely building more fans, something special for us all to watch. We look forward to following it go forward in the playoffs. Thanks always for some time, and I look forward to talking to you, and you can explain it all to us as we go through. Thanks so much for the time, JP. You take care of yourself.
Yeah, call me anytime, guys. Thank you. My pleasure.